Here is how to paint Da Red Gobbo. My brother gave me an old Red Gobbo model as an early Christmas present and I couldn't resist painting it. I'll be trying to recreate this paint job more or less. Without further ado, let's get to painting. As always, I start with a zenithal highlight using some Pearl Acryl Dark Neutral Gray from Monument Hobbies. Use the link in the description and code iPaintSmallThings for 10% off your entire order if you want to treat yourself to the primer I use. After spraying from above with white, I undersprayed with a brown ink. This helps create a different tone in the shadows and, more importantly, helps paint all the white fluff on the Mini. I first started with the skin. I used Castellan Green as a base. And then moved up towards Strachan Green for the highlights. I highlighted even brighter by mixing in Huge Miniatures Flax Yellow with Strachan Green. I painted his bottom lip, inside his ears, between his fingers, and on the tip of his nose with Huge Mini's Pink Blossom. Then it was time to paint his coat and hat. I didn't rush. I applied multiple thin glazes of Huge Mini's Cardinal Red. I then took the same red and mixed in Flax Yellow to create a highlight. I tried to make rough scratches and used stippling to give his coat some texture. I smoothed everything out with another glaze of the original red. I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out, but I may go back in and add more highlights and scratches down the road. I took model color burnt umber and flat brown to paint all the brown stuff. I then tried to paint on the candy cane stripes on his Blasta, but I guess I was a little camera shy and didn't do this very well, but you get the idea. You don't have to get it perfect on the first try. I cleaned up the lines with white. I painted his boots, the holes in his coat, and bandolier with Panzer Ace's dark rubber, and highlighted with French Mirage blue. Then, I painted the metal bits with model color steel or copper. The leaves on the stick were painted with flat green. Random pieces of string and his teeth were painted with Skeleton Horde contrast paint. Then I picked out some bright colors to paint the ornaments. I added a dot of pure white to give the ornaments some shine. I used Huge Mini's Blue Lagoon airbrush paint to color in the eyes. Then added a dot of white, which I conveniently covered the whole shot with my entire hand. Nice. I added Dirty Down rust effects to the Shuta, and once that was dry, I stippled on some steel to have some fresh metal poking through the rust. I switched to a sharper brush and painted his teeth white. Then I began my attempt to paint on some wood grain. I'm not entirely happy with how this turned out, but it'll do. The original picture had some tiny text on Da Red Gobbo's Christmas list loincloth, and I'm not sure what magic they used to paint such minuscule text, but I for sure don't have that power. So, I made a custom transfer sheet. Let me know if you'd like a tutorial on how to do this. I cut out the transfer with a little cutout for his belt, soaked it in water for a minute, and moved it onto the model. Then added some microsole to soften the transfer and make sure it formed to the folds and laid flat. The OG picture's star was yellow and not copper, so I painted it yellow, washed it with Casandora yellow to emphasize the recesses, and then later highlighted the sharpest points with white. Lastly, I panel washed with various washes depending on the color underneath. This isn't an all-over wash, just to help create further separation between parts of the model. As a little Christmas bonus, I'll show you how to paint the base too. I painted the wooden box with burnt umber, the metal box with dark green, the bag of goodies with skeleton horde contrast paint, the grenades with refractive green, and all the metal bits with metal color steel. I'm painting my base to look like it's more sandy than snowy, to easily fit into the junkyard terrain with the rest of the orcs I've been making. So the ground was first painted with Naples yellow hue, and then I painted the highest parts of the sand with Naples yellow. These two craft paints are equivalents to model color yellow ochre and model color buff. Once that was dry, I washed the base with Agrax Earthshade. I added on some cross-hatching to give the bag a burlap texture. And I added a little steel to the edges of the metal box to act as weathering. Then, I dry brushed with Naples yellow, added some grass tufts, dry brushed with Naples yellow mixed with white, and followed by a very light dry brush of white, making sure to hit the grass tufts. I painted the rim black, and finally added some ochre pigment powder. It seems like a lot of steps, but it really is quick. I added the red gobbo to his base, and the paint job was done. It's been a while since I've been able to focus on a single miniature, so this was kind of refreshing. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. Shout out to Gao Duke for the coffees. I really appreciate it. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays! Alright, bye-bye.